Hello and welcome to your screencast for Personal and Professional Development 1. This is just going through what we're going to be covering in this afternoon session in assignment support. So everybody will write a reflection on this morning's session. So it might be a scenario that we discussed that you maybe had a difference of opinion on, or maybe something somebody said maybe changed your opinion on something, or maybe you had an opinion on something that you felt really strongly about, and it wasn't until you discussed it that you realised how strong your feelings were about that. We're also going to be talking about confidentiality and the importance of maintaining confidentiality when writing your assignment. And we're actually going to make a start on your webfolio through PebblePad, and then I'll be encouraging you to plan out the rest of your study time. So confidentiality, you cannot use any names of patients or even the place of work, and do not even identify the area of work, so you've got to be really careful with that. And breach of confidentiality is considered a professional issue, and if you do breach confidentiality in your assignment, you will not be given your mark until we've looked into that and investigated that, so it is taken quite seriously. People sometimes forget to check their assets, so with this assignment you have the main body of the assignment, but you also have assets attached to it, which we'll be looking at this afternoon, and that's where people normally breach confidentiality within there. So anyone's names or the service or the area, don't mention it. So we'll get started. So I want you to all log into your PebblePad accounts. That's not worked, so I'll try it another way. So if you look on the Blackboard site, there is a link to PebblePad on there. You log in that way. That should take you to your what's called your own personal learning space. That's my email, sorry about that. So what we're going to do is you'll all have your own sort of personal PebblePad. I've personalised mine and put my picture on there. And the first thing I want you to do is write a structured reflection. So if you click there and start work on, and there's structured reflection there, so if you click that, and just you can give it a title, so it might be reflection, you can call it whatever you want, but reflection on lecture on professionalism, but call it whatever you want. Start date, that's today's date, and you just write the reflection. So the first box is describing what it is you thought and observed. So I attended a lecture on professionalism. You can elaborate a bit more on that if you want. Reaction to the event, so describe your thoughts and feelings, and if relevant, describe your physical, intellectual or emotional reaction to it. So there might be a certain element of the session that you might have reacted to a certain scenario. So it may be that the one about emailing the educator at 10 o'clock at night to let them know that they're going to be off sick. It might be that actually initially you thought that was fine and that was okay, but then through discussions you realise that this may come across as unprofessional. And this might be something that you want to consider or think about for when you're out on placement. So just describe how you your thoughts and feelings with regards to that and how it made you feel and your sort of response. Then you might want to analyse, then you move on to the analysis. So what can be learned from your reactions? So it might be that you first thought that it wasn't something, it was professional, but then through discussions with colleagues and peers, you've realised that actually how this comes across as unprofessional, the reasons why, and what you've learned from that. It might be that you might use that form of communication in email. We use that a lot of university, but actually when you're out in clinical practice, it's about establishing what are the correct methods of communication, what are the policies around that, and just having conversations, like I've said on your first day, asking what is the policy around sickness and what's the preferred method of me letting you know when I'm sick. Future planning, so it might be what would you do in similar circumstances in the future. So it might have been that you would have just sent the email, but now actually you'll send the email, you might follow it up with a phone call as well in the morning, but also asking as well about what the policies and procedures are. And then overall reflection, so from thinking about and writing about this, what have you learned about your learning and development? So it might be that that it's not always about assuming, it's about getting clarification, it's about having chats with peers, taking on board other people's viewpoints, acknowledging what your own sort of viewpoints and what your own perceptions are. So think about what you'd write in each one. You can do this if you want, you can do this in 2s or 3s, or obviously if you're not in the session, you sit and do it on your own. The one thing I would encourage you to do is once you've done it, if you share it with your academic advisor, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So you can press save once you've done it, and then you put I want to, and if you just click share with people, and you type in who you want to share it. So if your academic advisor is Colette, let's say, you'd type in Colette's name and share it with Colette. And you do want to allow your academic advisor to comment. So if you just click that, allow recipients to leave comments, then obviously they can read it and they can comment on it for you. Okay, and then you just press, I think bottom there, yes, share asset. I'll not do that because Colette don't want to see that. Okay, so that's the first part of the session. And then what we're going to be doing is, once you've written the reflection, we'll be going into Atlas. Now Atlas is a different part of PebblePad, and that's the workspace. So you've got PebblePad, which is your own learning count, and Atlas, which is the workspace. So that's just that little blue icon there. So if we press that, that'll open up another window. I've got lots of different workspaces, but you'll not have as many as me, so you'll just have PPD 1, 18, 19. So click into that. What I want you to do then is go on to resources, and right at the bottom of the page you've got Personal and Professional Development 1. And mine's greyed out because I've already done it, but if you press copy and submit, that actually submits it to the workspace. And then if you go back into your PebblePad, in fact I'll show you the proper way to do it. So if you go into the dashboard and go back into Pebble Plus, and if you go to assets, that asset that we've just copied and submitted will be in there. I've got loads in there. So you can see that reflection added is there. Yours, you won't have a lot like me, but if you just, it'll probably be your top one when you do it, but I'm going to search for mine because I've got loads. I'm trying to find mine. Just bear with me a second. There it is. Okay, so if you bring that up, that'll bring you a template that we've already created for your assignment. So what you do is you go into each one and you just type in there. So we've typed the learning outcomes in there for you already. So the first one is describing the skills required of an occupational therapist. The second learning outcome is identifying the required behaviours. And the third learning outcome is describing the relevant influences on the profession and how these impact. So what you would do is you'd go into each one and you would just start to type around what the things are that you think are important. So you'd write it better than this, but if you just think, so I feel that as an occupational therapist, we need to maintain professionalism at all times, and this can be demonstrated through our skill and behaviour. Let's say you do it far more eloquently than that. So what you might do is, so you've started to describe there what you think are the skills, and what we'd like you to do is link what you're saying to reflection. So we want you to back up what you're saying to reflection. So if you're talking about professionalism there, it'd be a good idea to maybe link it to the reflection that you've just written about the lecture that we did on professionalism. So the way you do that is you highlight it, you just press link. You want to link to an asset, and then you just select the asset. So that one there is my reflection from the session. So if I went into preview, if I click there now, that will take me to that reflection that will have just written. So there, obviously there was nothing in it but yours, there would be something in that. So what it does is it's actually backing up what you're saying. So you're going to write in the main body about some of the skills required for an OT, but then you're backing that up with a reflection. So that's it really. There's going to be I'm going to create a discussion board on Blackboard so that you can use that for more assignment support, and just use each other really, and just sort of get guidance and support from your academic advisor as well. We'll be getting any questions, but like I say, you can post questions on the discussion board on Blackboard. Be recommended for you to schedule in some study time, because these assignments, it's much better to do this sort of gradually over time. It's always evident that students that have tried to rush this and try and write, this isn't an assignment you can write the night before. This is something that you've got to gradually build up over time, building your assets up and using them to sort of back up what you're saying. And comment on each other's. So share it with your academic advisor, share it with your academic group, share your reflections. That's the best way of learning is by sharing with each other. And just try and keep mindful about it. It's not feeling overwhelmed by it, and if you do feel overwhelmed, it's getting the support. So it should be quite a nice assignment to write. And really, you get the support, use the discussion board, use each other, and get support from us or your academic advisor. Okay, thank you.